driver to scan and take photos from their phone, ensure it's quality within the app, and then sign on glass as needed while having that documentation instantly upload to the web app in a given and specific load. It takes a lot of time and effort to manage paperwork, and modern drayage software sort of removes those hurdles, or at least it should. Additionally, we see a lot of carriers managing rates and charges in Excel, even if they already have a TMS in place in many cases, which is shocking for some of our sales staff that doesn't come from the industry to see. It's interesting for them to see the dynamics of how software might be in place today, but how it's being supplemented by what I will call traditional methods, again, Excel and Google Sheets. That may mean a lack of functionality, but it's likely more a lack of customization. Drayage software can empower carriers to manage their business in a single pane of glass, a single application from end to end, from rates to customer management to dispatch. But storing rates, being able to update them quickly and as needed is also critical, and Drayage software can help empower today's carriers in that endeavor as well. It should be enabling carriers to move to a single pane of glass where they manage their whole business, and that includes integrations with ERP solutions and QuickBooks, for example, which I'll get into in just a few minutes. But more specifically, it should be a repository for everything that you do that is transportation related. That's what Drayage software really should be there to serve all of those different facets of your business. Automations are going to be the last thing I mention here. It's actually bullet 4 on my slide here, but it'll be the last thing I talk about before I move on as far as improved operational efficiencies are concerned. Today, much of the communication and document management at carriers is manual, right? When a driver uploads a document, Drayage software can automatically apply that document to the appropriate load. I mentioned that only briefly just a few minutes ago, but I'll give you just a regular use case. A dispatcher is creating a load for a specific customer. Call it Home Depot. The Drayage software then can see that load is being created for Home Depot, and because there's a rates and a charges repository, it can automatically apply those to the load without any manual intervention. Pretty standard for Drayage software these days, but the automations are what's key for driving operational efficiency and saving time, to be perfectly honest. Then from there, you can assign a driver, and there's driver rates and driver charges. There's a repository in the TMS that pulls that information alongside the rates that you're providing to your customer. Then the normal life cycle of the load takes place, right? Dispatcher dispatches that driver heads down to the marine terminal, picks up the full, heads over to the warehouse. Let's just say it's a live unload. And then from there, right, that driver's uploading documentation. They're taking their phone straight from within the mobile app, right, if it's provided as part and parcel to your TMS. They can take pictures of POD, TIRs, whatever they need. They can sign documentation if they need, and that gets uploaded straight back to the web app, and the dispatcher has visibility into that without having to pick up any paperwork, without having to call the driver. It's all just bundled up very nicely in the actual load under the documents sub-tab. That's how DrayOS, our TMS works, right? It's a sub-tab where documents are managed in a given load, but it can be presented in a number of different ways. So the next, well, with Drayage software, just to put it bluntly, you should be able and you can win more business. There's a number of different ways that Drayage software allows carriers, again, of all sizes. Doesn't matter if you got 5 trucks or 500 trucks. The software should serve your needs. And the last part of what I mentioned on the previous slide was an excellent segue into the most probably under-recognized benefit of Drayage software. And again, it's right there on the screen. It's winning more business. Today's brokers, forwarders, and BCOs are often manually seeking updates on tendered loads from carriers. I'm sure you've all gone through this, where more often than not, they, meaning brokers, forwarders, and BCOs, are manually tendering those loads over to you via email or phone call in some cases, as I mentioned before. And then sometimes they're offering EDI feeds, sort of a level 1 for drayage software and its functionality. API is sort of level 2. It at least allows for bidirectional and universal integrations, but I digress. A real-time available customer-facing portal is what we see as the pinnacle of success for drayage software providers to offer their customers the opportunity to impress their customers and win more business. And I'll give you some tangible examples here. And again, this is present in our software. It's also present in a lot of other providers, TMS providers, right? Imagine that you could provide Walmart or Home Depot or any other BCO with a real-time portal that gives them the status updates on loads they've tendered to you, right? Or I guess if it's a BCO, it's not really a tender, it's just regular work, but I digress, the concept is the same. Imagine then they could digitally tender those loads if they're a broker, right? So via API or EDI, they tender them straight into your drayage software, which very common, right? That's not world changing. API may be different, new, and revolutionary, but the concept of tendering digitally is certainly not new. And then imagine the time savings you and they both realize when loads, again, can be just automatically accepted, digitally accepted straight from within your TMS. And those notifications, again, whether it be EDI or API, are piped up automatically back to the BCO, the broker, or the forwarder. So they digitally tender the load, they've got an integration, it's EDI or API, you accept those loads or reject them. And the BCO in this example is notified of that immediately with either webhooks or an EDI 990 or whatever it is, right? And then from there, let's just say you've accepted some of those loads, and therefore Home Depot in this example, and let's say you've got 100 of them, right? You're a big operation, Home Depot's a big customer for you, you're going through your normal day-to-day, your dispatchers are dispatching drivers, your drivers are updating their mobile app, and you then, without drayage software, are required to send email notifications, pick up the phone and call your broker or BCO, tell them about the status of a specific container. Now, with modern solutions, with modern drayage software, you can just offer your customer or your broker a link, a live web link that's tailor-made for them, and they can then log in and see the status of all those loads that you are moving for them in real time, right? You can send status updates via API, again, and return EDI feeds, right, 990s, but the reality is that portal is going to be really tailor-made to them. It's going to be very nice looking as far as a user experience is concerned. Your customers are going to have a really good time with that portal. And again, they're not going to be having to pick up the phone and calling you, and you're not going to be having to pick up the phone and calling them. No lengthy email threads, all the status updates, all the history of that load, the rates, the charges, the documentation, everything that you need is nicely packaged in those loads and then offered up to your customer in that customer portal. And again, for what it's worth, automatic status updates can still be piped up from quality drayage software via email. So if you want to set up automatic emails, you certainly have the ability to do that. The crux of this whole slide is to say drayage software should allow you to customize your status updates, your documentation sharing, your whatever with your customer, giving them a better experience and then enabling them to give you more work, i.e. win more business. And you'll see those 4 bullets there. I think I've covered all of that. You know, the customer portal allows for live load tracking, but you can certainly send a link with modern drayage software. We offer it in DrayOS at PortPro. You can offer a live load tracking link that, you know, it's just an individual link for an individual load, and your customer can click that and see exactly where that load is and what the status is. The third sort of tangible benefit of using drayage software is reducing costs and obviously increasing profit along with that. It's basically just doing more with less. We've covered some of that, but this is going to be a little bit more specific and a little bit more nuanced, especially in terms of my examples. So with Drayage software, one dispatcher can manage many more drivers than they normally would be. But let's just say without Drayage software, right? Forget about the differences between incumbents in this space, those that have been selling and building TMS solutions for 2 decades now, opposed to us who've been in the game for 6 or 7 years now, right? There's the example here is you have no Drayage software or you have Drayage software. The reality is with Drayage software, dispatchers can certainly do a lot more with a lot less, which sounds like an obvious comment, but the more advanced your software becomes, the more modern in their approach to development, the more that compounds, and eventually, it's just a handful of dispatchers that could, in theory, handle hundreds of drivers, even if they're split by day and night shift. There's automations and planning that should allow for folks to do more with less. More specifically, with Drayage software, accounting and financial professionals can remain organized and structured with clear and automated reporting. And that's container tracking, that's empty return tracking, that's per diem auditing and reporting, right? Freight factoring integrations, that's huge. I'll get into that in just a few seconds. And then, as always, you can repurpose staff for more important strategic initiatives. I mentioned it at the beginning of my presentation, but it's worth mentioning again now. When you can do more with less, that allows you to think strategically and more long term. And again, that goes for any business. That's not just drayage trucking. That's not just supply chain and logistics. That's any business. That's our business as software providers. That's a financial services institution. That's a bank. It's anybody, right? When you can do more with less and think long term, you future-proof your organization. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, as I mentioned, I'm going to go into some specific examples. Automated appointment booking, right? It's functionality that is revolutionary at the moment for drayage software providers. Only a few, including PortPro, by the way, offer such a feature. And specifically in the San Pedro Bay Port Complex and in the ports of New York and New Jersey, booking an appointment can be really cumbersome. And you guys know that better than I do, just to be perfectly honest. So I'm just kind of regurgitating what I hear from our partners in the industry, right? But it takes a lot of time. It's a manual effort. If drayage software could see where you need to pick up a container, for example, and then book the appropriate appointment for you, wouldn't that save you time? It's really what it's designed to do, right? So I'm going to keep going back to this reducing cost and increasing profit theme while I'm talking about all of these examples. In addition to automations and appointment booking, drayage software can help track containers before they arrive and are offloaded from the ship, right before they get on the dock. Saving precious time and energy is key in having container availability, vessel schedules, hold information present in the software you are using to manage your business. Allows you to optimize your priorities and work on the most profitable and available, that's kind of the key to this whole thing, and available containers. Empty return tracking, meaning last free day notifications and alerting available in drayage software, can help prevent container can track when the container is discharged, when it's en route to the warehouse, when it's due to be returned as an empty back to the terminal, what terminals are accepting those empties, and then provide reports and alerts to help fight against unfair charges. So Drayage software, put bluntly, is going to remind you as a dispatcher and operations person saying, hey, this container is approaching last free day. Hey, this container was dropped off a week ago. It really needs to be returned. Here are the places that you can return it today, right? And then providing reports available to the public on websites, but consolidating them within the software makes it easy for you as an operations person, as a drayage carrier, to fight against those unfair per diem charges. So you can go back to the shipper or the BCO, say, hey, I tried to return this empty on Tuesday. While my guy was driving down there, the terminal shut off, shut me out, right? They weren't accepting, call it MSC empties or whatever it is, right? And then the next day was the same issue. And so you've incurred 2 days, or accrued rather, 2 days of per diem charges. And now at least you've got some reporting, something that's defensible that you can then take back to stakeholders in the industry and say, hey, this was kind of an unfair per diem charge. Here are the reasons why. Here's my proof. Here's the record of what we tried to do and what we couldn't do. And ideally, it's preventative, but it prevents any individual load from getting its profit margin just kind of wiped out, right? So reducing costs, increasing profits. Here at PortPro, we also hear a lot about freight factoring. And I know that it's a critical part of mid-sized carriers' operations. It's an insurance policy, really, used to build cash flow and build innate protection from challenges with payment terms, right? Some of these big behemoths that kind of run this industry, they kind of set the terms for playing poker, but freight factoring is a way to it's sort of a bulwark against that. Drayage software can and should be used for integrating solutions like those other software providers that work as freight factoring solutions. There's a number of them, right? Rather than manually pulling those invoices and emailing them, which takes a ton of time and energy, Drayage software can offer comprehensive API integrations into these solutions and then pipe factoring required information digitally and automatically without the need to send emails or get on the phone. If you work with a factoring company, you can set up Drayage software and send supporting documentation and invoices, the actual invoices, which is kind of the most critical part of this whole conversation, over to the factoring company you work with automatically and systemically. So if you've got a relationship with a factoring company, you're regularly sending them invoices, and that's a manual effort, with the right Drayage software in place, you can get rid of all that manual effort and you can set up an integration such that those things are handed over automatically and systemically without you ever having to think about that. And that includes payment processing as well, by the way. Modern Drayage software providers, talk about a mouthful, modern Drayage software providers should be thinking about payments and transactions to make it easier for carriers of all sizes to consolidate their software stack and ensure that they have an easier time running their business and aren't necessarily worried about sending emails, picking up the phone, and going through all this manual, cumbersome effort just to make sure invoices are getting sent to their factoring company or ensuring that they're getting paid. And paying their drivers, by the way, is a big part of that. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to kind of gloss over the last couple things here, and then I'll turn it back to Carla for the Q&A session, which I think we've got some prep questions for me as well. So we'll head there in just a few minutes. Okay, so last but certainly not least is catered financial reporting. Catered or tailored. I'm going to use those words interchangeably here. Now, what do I mean by catered or tailored financial reporting? I mean financial reporting that is specifically designed to show you how your organization is performing from right within your TMS, right? From right within your Drayage software. Drayage software should be able to tell you your profitability on each load, i.e. the margins you make on each load, right? So as I mentioned earlier, we've got a customer rates repository, we've got a driver pay rates repository, we've got costs, we've got documentation, we've got everything we would need, we as the software provider, we would need to then tell you as the carrier what your margin is on any given load from any given customer, right? It should be able to connect to your ERP solution as well, allowing for syncing between the two most important systems you use to run your business, ERP and TMS. It should also allow you to see your most productive and effective assets and the most profitable business opportunities. More on that in just a second. If you can see that your margins are far lower with one BCO, for example, opposed to another, that may steer you to do more work in the more profitable venture. So if we're, for example, we've got all your customers, we've got all your rates, we've got, you're running your entire business in a TMS. We're then telling you what the margin is on every individual load as the software provider, as Drayage software should. And then what Drayage software should offer is compounding financial reports, again, tailored to your business, that tell you what customers have been the most profitable for you, which drivers, for example, have done the most work for you, what sort of lanes or type of work is best for your organization. All of those kind of tailored financial reporting is going to paint a really clear picture for how you can build your organization for the future, right? So you can pick your customers, should you be in a position to do so, pick your customers a little more carefully, pick the type of work a little bit more carefully. I mean, you can get it down to the terminal level. You can see where your drivers are spending most of their time in a specific terminal, or what challenges you face in terms of per diem and detention, right? Where have you accrued the most hits in that capacity as well, right? All of that is going to be available in quality Drayage software, and it's going to tell you, it's going to paint a very clear picture for how to kind of pick and choose your work. So in sum, Drayage software is critical for modernizing your business. Drayage carriers need software to help them run and improve every facet of their business, and without it, there is a risk of falling behind the competition. A lot of these carriers, today's carriers, again, of all sizes, are thinking about how they can better serve their customers and how they can better run their business using Drayage software. And I would implore all of you to, again, visit us at IANA next week. If you've got any questions, I'm happy to take those here in the next few minutes. There's a lot to unpack here, and we only just scratched the surface for what real powerful Drayage software can do to help transform your organization. And again, I'm going to keep going back to this theme of future-proofing, but transforming your organization and then future-proofing it to ensure that you can be part of the the supply chains of the future. I am, as always, really grateful for HTA and all that they do for the industry. I've been working with these folks for a really long time, and I'm grateful for all of you for attending. Carl, I'm going to be respectful of time here. I'm being cognizant we're at 10:31, and so I'll end my presentation here, and I'll kind of open it up to you for some of those questions, or if you want to jump right into Q&A, I kind of leave that up to you. But I'm here, I'm available, and I'm happy to take this whatever direction you best see fit. Did I lose you guys? Can you hear me? Brian, are you still in attendance? Can you hear me? Okay, I just got your Slack, so it sounds like you can hear me. Okay, well, Carla might have got disconnected, but while we wait, I've got the list of questions here, so I'll just kind of I'll ask myself these questions, and then I'll do that for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and then hopefully what we can do is open up the question panel, and I can take questions from the audience. But I'll just kind of buy us some time here and do my best to keep you guys engaged. So I've got I've got an outline and questions here. So question one, and again, this presentation was built based off of a blog post that that we as PortPro posted just a few weeks ago, which is why drayage carriers need. I'll go back to the front here. Why carriers need drayage software. And so question one is your blog, referring to the one that I wrote up. Your blog highlights the benefits of drayage software in logistics management. Could you elaborate on specific real-world scenarios where a company significantly improved its operations using this technology? And I'm gonna get a little tongue-in-cheek with my answer, but I'll give you all in the audience a really specific example of how PortPro is able to serve one of its premier customers. This is a New York, New Jersey customer. I won't name them, but they've got about 55 trucks, and they consume now actually they consume all three products that we have available in the market. They've been a customer of ours for years, but they've only recently grabbed a hold of our two latest products. So our flagship product is DrayOS. That's the TMS that PortPro offers to the drayage market, right? And again, it allows a drayage carrier to run their business from end to end. Everything I just mentioned, from financials to customer portal to dispatching, driver management, the whole 9 yards. And then we've got DrayOS Track. So DrayOS and then DrayOS Track. DrayOS Track is a new product of ours. It's been in the market about 6 months now, 4 to 6 months, if you count some of the beta customers. And that is wholeheartedly designed to track, monitor, and measure per diem and detention charges. So those examples I gave in the section about reducing costs and increasing profit, DrayOS Track helps with really specific problems that carriers in New York, New Jersey, and in LA Long Beach especially deal with when it comes to trying to return empty containers to terminals that may be shutting them out. And with that comes, with DrayOS Track, comes vessel schedules, so these carriers can plan in advance. It also has hold information. It's got live container tracking, so you can plug in a container and see exactly where it is, if it's on the ship, if it's on the dock, if it's already been discharged or whatever, right? And then that allows you as the carrier to plan a little bit more congruently. We've also got the automated appointment booking, which you heard me talk about in the presentation. That, again, is designed to save time and money by tapping into publicly available data, and our great partner at eModal that's given us a universal API to actually book appointments in their solutions right from within hours. And again, that's designed to be automated. It's designed to give carriers kind of like a pseudo universal appointment system, so they're not having to leave the TMS. They're staying right within DrayOS to do all of the work. They're not going to 14 different terminal websites and having to log in and do all this other stuff, right? Saving time there. And then our last product is our fourth product. I said we've got three. The appointments is actually a feature of DrayOS Track. But our third product and the kind of the fourth thing that I'm mentioning here is ShipOS. And that's basically designed to be a TMS for brokers. So for drayage brokers. So there's a network of drayage carriers, now 400 of our customers, that a broker can tap into. They can run their business using ShipOS, but they can also expand their capacity, get automatic status updates from those carriers of ours that are using DrayOS. So I digress. Long story short, this customer of ours in New York, New Jersey uses all of those products. And I think they weren't using a TMS before they adopted DrayOS. And they had paperwork up to the ceiling. They could go in their office and it was ludicrous, right? Like it looked like it looked like a fire hazard, to be perfectly honest, right? And I don't think it was, but they just had paperwork stacked up to the ceiling, and they were so backlogged on work, and they had a whole team of operations people that were just coordinating. They're just handling logistics, right? Calling drivers, hey, where's this load? Then in turn calling or emailing brokers, BCO, saying the load is here, it's on its way, or whatever. They were managing all of these things manually. Since they've adopted DrayOS, they've grown their organization with the use of the customer portal. So now they're offering those customers that really tailor-made, wonderful experience of user experience with that customer portal, which has attracted more customers to our customer. They have an easier time maintaining drivers because now the drivers have a really nice mobile app. They're not having to worry about managing all this paperwork. In fact, they don't even have to come to the office if they don't want to. So they have an easier time with driver recruitment. They have an easier time keeping drivers once they have them. They have been able to use the financial reporting that we provide with DrayOS Track to fight unfair per diem charges, but also with just DrayOS, the tailor-made financial reporting to see what work is most profitable for them. And because all of that is at their fingertips, they've actually fired some of their own customers. So they said, this work is not profitable for us. It's actually eating into our margin overall as a business. We're not going to do that kind of work anymore. So implementing Drayage software has allowed this particular customer that I'm giving an example of to grow their revenue, grow their margins as well, maintain their drivers, give their drivers a better experience, and remain a pretty competitive player in the New York, New Jersey space. And then, of course, all the little nuances that go with that, saving time and money when it comes to automatic appointment booking, saving time and money fighting per diem charges, and then again, doing more with less. They went from like 7 dispatchers. I think they're down to like 3 or 4 now. And now that's with more drivers. I think they've grown their driver count as well. So all of those things have sort of compounded into this example that gives a really specific answer to that first question there. So that was long-winded, and I'm going to just do one quick check. Carla, are you back online with us?
Can you hear me? Oh, there you go. Sorry about that.
Yes. No worries. No worries. So I'm not sure where we lost you, but as a frame of reference, I asked myself the first question on the list, and we're about 10:40 now. But now that we got you back, I'll kind of turn it over to you. I'm happy to continue with these prepared questions, or I'm happy to be respectful of time and jump into whatever questions have come from the audience. I just don't have visibility into that.
Of course, no problem. Well, let's continue on. I have the second question here in front of me. Communication is a crucial aspect of logistics. How does Drayage software enhance communication among stakeholders, and what role does real-time data play in this process?
Another really good question, and again, for the audience, I've seen some of these in advance, so it's going to be easy for me to answer. But I'm gonna double down on the answer I gave in question 1. That real-time portal that has live load tracking prevents the BCO from being kept in the dark, right? Or the broker for that matter. They no longer have to pick up the phone or send emails or worry about where a certain load is. If a carrier is using Drayage software, they should be able to provide their BCO or their customer with a portal that gives them all the information they could ever want of every load that's being handled for them by that individual carrier, the status of it, if it's empty, if it's en route, if it's delivered. And in some cases, like DrayOS has this, right? Our TMS has this. There's a live link that actually shows where the driver is if he or she has picked up that load. So if the driver is en route from marine terminal, let's just say it's a import and it's a live unload, the driver's en route driving up the 710 freeway in Long Beach to the warehouse in the Inland Empire, the customer portal will actually allow for the BCO or the broker to click a link and see where that driver is on the freeway. All of the load information that they could ever want is available right there. So that's the role of real-time data, right? It's reducing the number of hours that people have to spend on the phone and in email and in an email, and it's also preventing, or it's reducing the number of just operations people, logistics people that a carrier may need to like coordinate all of that, right? So again, that goes back to answer 1, where it's just doing more with less. That company in New York, New Jersey, it's a customer of ours. Again, they haven't let anybody go. They've got strategists on the team now, right? They've got more business development people on the team. And those are repurposed dispatchers in many cases because they don't need as many dispatchers, because they don't need as many, they don't need as many just uh, communication veins to their BCO or their broker.
Thank you. And I think that's a nice segue for the next question. Can you provide examples of how Drayage software helps minimize expenses and increase operational efficiency within the drayage industry?
Yeah, another good question. I'm gonna triple down here now on the answer to my first question. I mean, with DrayOS Track, for example, not to talk too much about PortPro products because again, there's a lot of drayage software that does this, but just being able to track when a container is approaching last free day or if it's past last free day, tracking when, how, who, where, what, why a marine terminal was accepting or not accepting those empties, and then seeing the actual charges straight from within your TMS, estimated charges at this point, right? And then providing reports to then allow you to go fight unfair per diem charges is one really critical example of how you can minimize expenses. And then with the automations behind all of that, that's how you can increase operational efficiency. So just to be perfectly clear, the drayage software is going out and finding all of that information for you as a carrier, right? It's not a operations person going to the terminal website to book an appointment. It's like they just we have allowed Drayage software has allowed for the dispatcher to book the appointment straight from within the TMS. It's not a operations person going to the terminal website and trying to find a history of when this MSC empties were being accepted, right? The system's going out and pulling that in. It's not requiring the driver to come in and dump 10 files worth of paperwork, on somebody's desk for them to sift through and take pictures of and upload and connect to a specific load. It's, the driver's taking the photo. We know what load he's on because the dispatcher dispatched him through his mobile app. That goes straight into the load back into the web app. So it's all of those things that really compound and add up that allow for derived efficiencies and as I mentioned, going to specific pain points, per diem detention, load margins, right? All of that has helped with drayage software.
Great. Does anybody in the audience have any comments? Questions? This is an opportunity to raise your hands. All right. I'll move into the next question. The blog emphasizes improved customer experiences as a result of adopting Drayage software. Can you share instances where companies leverage this technology to better serve their clients and gain a competitive edge?
Yeah, it's another really good question. And this, I won't go back to my answer for question one, but I will talk a little bit more about what I gave in the presentation, and that's that tailored customer experience. I'll talk a little bit more about that. I think I'll at the risk of being long-winded at this point, but again, being able to provide your customers with all the information they could ever want on loads that you're handling for them in a customer portal provides your customers with a really solid experience. And because of that, we've seen it, right? This isn't me speaking anecdotally. We have seen customers of ours at PortPro grow their businesses because of the experience they're giving their customers in terms of data accuracy, in terms of customized, tailor-made financial reporting, the customer portal, right? All of that gives the customer a next level modern experience and provides them with connectivity into their carrier that is really critical again for bringing in new business.
There's a great question here, and thank you for that answer. How do companies ensure a smooth transition for their teams during the implementation process? And could you provide insights into the learning curve associated with adopting Drayage software?
Really good question. Not one that I prepared an answer for. So I'll answer that with how we do it at PortPro. And how we do it at PortPro is really mirrored after other modern software providers that exist across vertices. So I'm talking not just supply chain and logistics, but software companies that offer financial services or customer success products or Salesforce is a bad example because they don't actually do implementations, but organizations like HubSpot, Bank of America or Stripe, right? Those kinds of organizations. We have modeled our implementation and onboarding teams to mirror those organizations because we know that it's critical, right, for drayage specifically. So we've modeled it after those organizations, but we've put our own spin on it. So I think still at PortPro, our customer success, onboarding, and customer support teams, I think those three teams make up the largest business unit that we have at PortPro. In fact, I'm positive of it. Other than engineering, right? It makes up our largest business unit. We've got a chief customer officer, that's Tony Correxio. She oversees all of those divisions, and I think a chief customer officer is new to the supply chain and logistics space, but it's built that way so that Tony and her teams can give our customers a really incredible experience once they purchase our software. So in the sales process, it's very easy for our sales team, for example, to articulate the value to carriers. And more often than not, the concern from our customers is the implementation stage. Once they get through that, then they have an easy, good time as well with their customer success rep. The software is obviously very sticky because carriers are running their entire business using what we provide and other drayage softwares. That implementation onboarding stage is critical. So we've invested a lot of time, money, and personnel to ensure that business unit is a well-oiled and functional machine. And again, credit to Tony, our chief customer officer, but that is where we've gone as far as a SaaS provider working in this space is concerned. We know how challenging it is to migrate software solutions, especially in certain cases where you as a carrier might have been using the same TMS for 15 years. That's a huge change, and migrating all of that data, getting things mapped over correctly, configuring the system to meet your needs, right? That's a big undertaking. And we've got a big team, and they're seasoned vets, they're pros in the customer-facing divisions that enable that transition to be made easier.
Great. And looking ahead, what do you envision as the next innovation in drayage software? How will these advancements further revolutionize logistics management and reshape the industry's landscape?
Another really good question. So, tongue in cheek here a little bit, right? I'll start with EDI. I mean, people have been saying EDI is going away for 20 years now. It just hasn't. So at PortPro, we've taken a unique approach to convert EDI into universally applicable APIs that then allow other organizations like a P44 or tech-enabled brokers or Forkites or anyone that's got APIs with any solution to integrate with ours and get information to and fro in an easy way. So I say that because the first part of my answer is integrations. So the more drayage software can offer its customers in terms of integrations, the stickier and easier it becomes to use. I gave one example of freight factoring in my presentation, right? If you can easily pipe that information automatically and systemically over into the freight factoring solution that you use or the freight factoring organization that you work with, that's time, money, and energy saved. If you can receive loads digitally via API, that's time, money, and energy saved. You can offer your customers status updates via API or EDI, that's time, money, and energy saved. So the major transitions are going to be on the integration side, but it's also going to be feature related. So you've heard me today talk about DrayOS Track, per diem auditing, that kind of thing, automations with that. Automated appointment booking is obviously really revolutionary. There's only a handful of organizations that are building that kind of tool right now. And I don't think anybody other than PortPro has it built straight from within the TMS, which is obviously the real value, right? Keeping the carrier in a single pane of glass, allowing them to manage their entire business on one solution, right? That's really the key. And last but not least, just providing carriers with tools that every other industry has had for decades. So Michael Mecca, our CEO, and our product roadshow a couple weeks ago, we mentioned CRM, right? There isn't a CRM that is tailor-made for carriers, for drayage carriers. It's sadly an underserved market, and we are obviously trying to fix that. Us and others are trying to fix that. So CRM is probably the third part of my answer, right? Giving just base level efficiencies and communication tools to carriers to again enhance the experience that they're giving their customers that can then in turn allow them to win more business. And I'm sure there's hundreds and thousands of things that we and nobody else has thought of. But that's the fun part about being part of a modern SaaS organization is the agile approach to continuously improving, continuously evolving, and continuously growing and enhancing the suite of products that are available to our customers.
Thank you so much for that, Walker. I think we're getting ready to wrap up. If anybody else has any questions or comments, I'll give you a few seconds. No, looks like everybody's pretty quiet today. Well, thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. And Walker, do you have any final comments you'd like to bring to our audience today?
I think I'm good, Carla. I'm really appreciative of you. I'm really appreciative of the HTA. I mean, you guys have done a lot of heavy lifting just in terms of communicating what's coming down the pipeline with CARB and with AB5 and doing a really good job, prepping your members for the future. Software is one way to future proof an organization, drayage carriers, but the work that you guys are doing cannot go unnoticed. You are also working on future proofing your members and preparing them for the future. So I think this has been a wonderful partnership. I'm really grateful to be here, and all of us at PortPro are really excited to continue our relationship and continue to work together on things like this.
Thank you so much. All right, well, looks like this is the end of it, and I hope everyone has a great day, and see you next time.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.